There's Luca's front pad. Look at that. He's just snuggled right in. We are about an hour from Kansas City in Missouri. And trip's going great. Got a big stretch here that I figured I'd just hit record. Been brushing up on my Chris Voss and different books, and took a break to listen to a podcast from the Journal, and they're talking to the person who runs AMD. AMD chips, right? I think it's a very insightful. I think it's 25 minutes, so that's what I want to talk about on this one, is the AI bubble. Is it a bubble? There are just some thoughts that I have. I'm going to put my Shade Tree Economist hat on and, kind of read the tea leaves here of what I'm seeing. And would love to make this a discussion. I know some of the videos that I do that are more of a discussion, folks enjoy a lot. So we're going to kind of keep referencing this podcast on the Journal, and I'll put it in the notes, regarding AMD chip maker, and they're a competitor to the other chip maker that you probably hear a lot of is NVIDIA, right? And so what's very interesting about what they're talking about here is how these are two, NVIDIA and AMD are kind of competition. They make chips, right? And they're both making deals with OpenAI, right? OpenAI is the AI company that is going to need the computing power, right? And so that's the premise. And what's not said in this particular podcast that I want to also add is they talk about it briefly, is the circular investing. But what Michael Burry has brought up, and Michael Burry is famous from The Big Short. He was the investor that kind of really started seeing everything before everybody else and set up the way to actually short the housing market. And what he's actually pivoted out of running money and is just doing a Substack column, But what he's saying is that AI is a bubble for a completely different reason than the circular investing, than some of the things that I kind of believe. He's sticking to his numbers, And so on this video, we're going to talk about the numbers, what folks are saying. I think out of their mouth matters a lot. What and how we talk, to me, is a great indicator of a lot of things, and particularly in investing. So moving forward, the person that runs AMD, in the podcast they'll give you some history, background. She talks about her strategy, and then they set up a deal with OpenAI that they're looking at as a win-win. And my concern with the whole thing here is how much money we all have touching AI in our stock market and wherever. So part A is, how much money do you have in your finances that is actually going to be touched or affected if AI goes up and down? Because you've probably seen it go up recently. That's a good indicator that I'd want to know what and how is making my 401k go up. You probably know this. I hope you do. What we found was that a lot of times people in their 401ks and their investing said things are doing good, or I have a money person, let's stay in my lane kind of thing, right? And we also saw a lot of folks that took the money in their 401k and got no growth because they didn't really for whatever reason, know what was in there, or there's a lot of different reasons. But what I'm trying to say now is this: how much is it that we in America have invested in AI? I've heard it's as much as 40% of stock market / 401ks, different, S&P, that kind of thing, right? So because we have Apple, Facebook, Google, how much do they have invested in AI? How much is that invested in the two companies I mentioned earlier, AMD and NVIDIA, right? So markets and competition are good until we start having this circular investing into the same exact thing and having the same exact outlook on the whole market is what I see happening right now. So, shifting into part B of what I think personally is a problem with the way that folks are looking at AI is it seems like they're just over investing. When I work in real estate, and I would never grab my clients, whatever their budget is, and offer it all. I'm not a one to ever say, we're not going to just grab our wallet and unload it out on the table and push it across the table. Say, that's all I got. Will you take this? And that, to me, folks, is exactly what I'm seeing some billionaires do right now. One ends in Berg, and it seems like they can't spend enough money on AI, quite literally, is what's coming out of their mouth. Taking their 30% away from the metaverse and investing it in AI is what I'm seeing. Which, anyway, tying this back to, what are we talking about? What are you doing here? In the podcast, on the journal, listen to what she says. The head of AMD is saying there is an insatiable amount of demand for this AI and the chips and that kind of thing. Insatiable is what she said. And to me, that's where we're going to shift away from any numbers. That's where I'm going to shift over here and say, what would Warren Buffett do? Or what would Warren Buffett say if he heard literally that statement? That'd be interesting to hear what he says. I think it's obvious what he says because of how much money he doesn't have in the stock market, how he feels about it right now. But what has been a great success when whatever it was insatiable, right? Internet.com, housing market. Let's go back to the gold rush, okay? Insatiable amount of, right? She said there is an insatiable amount of needed computing power, it seemed. From her own words. And not worried about a bubble, not worried about this, that, or the other. And that makes me even more concerned about the actual accounting. Because when we start to pick up, what does Michael Burry do? He looks at the actual numbers, the actual accounting. I've taken limited amount of accounting classes. I will say that I can get the gist quickly without knowing what I'm talking about. When I read math, just math, or it doesn't, right? You can't talk your way out of 2 + 2 = 4 very easily. And that's what the other part of this is Michael Burry is saying, you read what he's saying, the depreciation on their actual machines, they pushed out 5-6 years, whatever it is, they have literally said to their investors, right? And how far out that is, well, what do we know about tech, guys, right? It seems they're going to need to recycle or to upgrade their chips in 12 to 18 months. That's why all these other deals that AMD in this podcast is talking about, right? And they're talking about how they can deliver this, that, and the other. All these deals are on delivery, right? So there is a press for delivery. There is a actual devaluation that they're pushing off 5 years that they're going to have to buy and actually do soon. Okay? Sooner than the 5 years. Note Michael Burry's he's got a timeline. And he says this should all happen by 2 years. Right? Seems pretty, reasonable. Go look at the tulip chart. Is all I gotta say. When you say 2 years, that kind of thing. Go look at, there's a chart of how much tulips were worth in Holland, right? Before the crash. And side note, I'll find one and I'll put it in the notes. Trying to add more value here. But entertainment wise, let's go back and listen to what everybody's saying about AI right now and be just in the moment. Just be in the moment. And does anybody out there with the right mind believe there is an insatiable amount of money to spend on anything right now besides AI folks and people that have a ton of money? Like, that seems like one of the most disconnected thoughts in investing that I've heard. I'm just going to put my Shade Tree economist hat on right now and think of things like reserves. Think of things like measured like thought processes on the future, measured excitement, right? And actual numbers. Like, there is a way that you account for your business, and you have depreciation, and there's a way you get valuations. At some point, the numbers, math makes math sense, and the rest is what people think. Okay? We're going to switch over to investing and philosophy, but it seems to me what we have also is a lot of things touching this AI boom right now. Period. That's one of my huge concerns is what happens. Here you go. Look at the gains you've got. Where did they come from? Did it come from the cost of this going up, down, oil's down? There's certain things. What's gone up in your portfolio to make it be a better value now than it was a year ago, right? And what I'm seeing and hearing, and I'd love to debate and hear from you all, is that's AI investing speculation. Period. Stop. End stop. And speculation, it seems to be when you start to look at actual numbers on how you vet a deal. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to me. Go listen to people that vet a deal for the last 25 years for a living and see what they're saying about it. Versus the people in the companies whose self-serving interest. It's really hard to set yourself outside when you stand to do well by success, right? When you are doing good and you stand to do well by success, really hard to see the bubble coming. But I can promise you this. Saying something's insatiable is not smart. I mean, I'm just going to say it like that. Saying demand for whatever is insatiable is not a smart thing for a leader of any ship to be thinking about, right? It is, to me, a problem. And I have another book in my head that I'll pop in there, and it's called The Stockdale Paradox from the book's called Good to Great. And the Stockdale Paradox is simply this. You might not get out of prison by Christmas time, but you will get out. We can't just think we're going to get out by Christmas time. No, we're going to get out by New Year's. and those things don't happen, and we're an optimist, and eventually you got to be a realist in the same sense, okay? And what I'm seeing in AI is everybody's so excited about the capabilities of it. Everybody's so excited because they, in the technology side of things, the tech minds can see what it can solve for us. What they are not looking at, and to me seeing, is what got them there. Part one, being smart in business. Part two is straight up, how would you run a company over 15 years, not 5? And that, to me, no leader would ever say that whatever they're selling or producing has an insatiable aspect to it. Period. Right? That's, to me, what really blew my mind on this video, or on this podcast, from the leader of AMD. Very smart woman. I don't want to take anything out of her capabilities or anything like that. But that, to me, is hubris. It is misguided, and and that right there, also that person with that mindset on what they're selling and doing could likely be affected and tied to your 401k. Likely is. How many of those folks, handfuls of them, run those companies of millions of people, right? But there's handfuls that run the company, that have the vision, the leadership, that make the moves, like Mark Zuckerberg, right? Go take a look in wherever your money is to see how much is tied to that woman. And it just happens to be a woman. I love that there's more women CEOs. I don't want to, I literally think we need more women in leadership. But it kind of blew me away, the amount of hubris in the thought process, regardless of what it is, right? So let's talk. This is the first question: is AI a bubble? And how much of your money is actually touching AI? Is my honest question for us all. Get to know that number and know exactly what it is, because it's probably what's holding up your 401k right now. And if it's not, let's learn, let's grow, let's figure out how to be better. But to me, when stocks go down, it's an elevator. They go up in an escalator. It's down in an elevator, right? Especially when they're all tied to each other. And I've never seen something that can tie all these companies and all of us in our 401ks together like AI. That, to me, is also it's even more pervasive than like the cost of energy, because they actually are starting to invest in energy, as well. So what's gonna save us? Like, it's all based off of growth. Here's what I'm gonna leave too. All this AI stock speculative value is based off of growth. A lot of growth. Where and what is this growth really going to be? Trillions and trillions? Is it going to get cheaper over time, like your iPhone, like anything? There's just so many awesome things for us to talk about regarding the whole, what is AI going to help us with? I could give you some awesome AI things that we need to do right now. But you know what? Folks got to be ready to kind of like trust that. That's also another part of AI, guys. Like, how much do you want to be invested in AI, and how much do you trust it? Because regardless of whether you trust it or not, you might be invested in it. Period. So I'm interested in hear what folks have to say on this. I mean, I'm just gonna put a pin in this right now here, as far as our questions go. But how much money do you have? I can't say it enough. How much money do you have touching AI? And how much did that go up? So it could go down. I hope it doesn't, but could, right? And also, listen to folks that are leaders in AI. Tell me what what you're thinking here, because I just don't see smart accounting in the leadership. Period. So, accountants, come tell me what you're thinking. Putting my Shade Tree economist hat on, enjoying my drive. Love you all. I'm gonna put in the notes is gonna be anything I talked about in this video I'll put into the notes. But take a listen to the podcast I mentioned, and let's start a discussion on the leader of AI thought processes and how they're running their ships, because to me there's a lot of confidence, and overconfidence is always bad. So third time that same truck driver had to pass me, and you know what, just finally unwinding. I'll leave you with this. I used to be a truck driver, and God bless them, I don't see the skill in it anymore. I don't see I'm okay with AI driving the trucks 100%, or what I've seen on this trip, because humans to me just don't really want to take and set their cruise control or whatever. I don't know. Love you all. I'll see you soon.